Due to recent YouTube updates, comments and likes have become more important than ever. I beg you to please consider doing exactly that. I read every comment that you write me and answer whenever possible and or need. I'm also open to suggestions for future content. My videos are created without the use of AI, so please support your fellow human content creator against clanker slop. Thank you.
Crunch, squelch, crack. These were the sounds Shrimpo heard as he was being devoured. Every bite from the twisted crushed deeper into his body, the pressure bending his shell until it splintered like brittle glass. Hot ichor gushed from the wounds, slick and heavy, sliding down his sides in streams that clung to his limbs. His fingers scrubbed uselessly at the slick flesh around him, arms thrashing without direction. The stench of rot filled his nostrils, thick enough to choke him. But worse than the smell was the taste of his own ichor, bubbling up into his throat. He gagged on it, coughed it back down, every spasm sending new stabs of pain through his cracked ribs. He hated this. He hated the wet, sucking gulps of the monster as it pulled more of him inside. He hated the feeling of his own body tearing apart, piece by piece. Most of all, he hated his team. Where were they? Why wasn't anyone here, dragging this thing off of him? They'd run, he knew it. Left him to be picked apart like trash. Typical. Always leaving him behind because he slowed them down or complained too much. His vision began to waver, black creeping in from the edges, but the hate kept him alive. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction of dying quietly. He wanted them to hear his body crack, to know they'd abandon him to this. The twisted teeth sank deeper, ichor spraying in a hot arc across the floor. Schrimpo grit his jaw, every thought narrowing down to a single bitter truth. I hate this place. His vision blurred until the twisted's dripping jaws were nothing but a smear of red and black. Shapes bent, warped, then dissolved into streaks of static light. The sound of crunching grew distant like it was happening underwater. His own thoughts scattered, breaking apart into fragments that slipped through his claws before he could hold them. All that remained was a single flicker of rage, a whisper in his head that hated everything. And then everything too went silent. Shrimpo jolted up, his heart raced, his head hurting like hell. What the... Gasping and grunting, he climbed on his feet, looking around. A metal box? Was a little big for a coffin. No. This was an elevator. Next to him, like you, another tune, a Cordelia carp tune. Like Schrimpo, you were themed after an aquatic animal. Your ears were two orange fins, and your body covered in scales so fine and small your skin practically felt like rubber. Shrimpo looked behind himself. There the elevator wall was shiny like a mirror, allowing the shrimp to inspect himself. He patted himself down. Everything was where it belonged. And then a sharp sting went through him. Breathing heavily, he raised his right arm, looking at the spot where the twisted pebble initially had bitten the limb off. It was back, not even a scar. He looked at his fingers. There was just a tiny bit of ichor under his fingernails, seemingly actively pouring. His eyes narrowed. What was this? Wait. He heard of this. Right. He remembered being with a Sprout once who said this wasn't his first rodeo. That Sprout had died on floor 3, so he and his team needed to get reinforcements. Is this what he meant? Shrimpo looked down at you, inspecting your face. Yes, your gills were leaking just the tiniest bit of ichor too. You were like him, a toon who had seen what's below the lobby. And came back. Grunting, he shuffled into the corner of the elevator. Well, might as well wait for anything to happen, he thought. At least he was safe here. But the silence didn't remain for too long, as you suddenly jumped up, screaming. Growling, he pressed both hands on the holes at the side of his head that functioned like ears. Your hands were grasping for your throat, but then air moved into your lungs. Hit the twist and let go. Confused, you looked around. Wait, no. This was different. This wasn't right. Then your eyes fell on Schrimpo. What happened? He narrowed his eyes. In the show, you were relatively on the same level. In it, you were a side character, like him. You were negative, like him. You were the secretary of Taunton and always overworked and grumpy. Just like him. Though while he was deeply cynical and hated everything, you really just needed a break. Your legs felt weak. You could still feel the tentacle around your throat. Gently, you brushed your hands over the spot. Shrimpo then grunted. I hate that you think about it. What? Think about what? You gave him a look, and he crossed his arms. Don't think about it. How can I not? I died! Oh God, I died. You broke out in tears, slumping into the corner opposite to him. Ugh, don't do that. He complained, loud enough for you to hear. Shrimpo only said that because he didn't want to hear you crying, but then he noticed before you that those tears you were crying were black, and so immediately jumped up. Okay, listen. He approached. Ichor tears were the first stage of becoming twisted, and he'd just returned to life. He really didn't want to be torn apart by a twisted version of you. And so, he placed both hands on your shoulders, and you looked up at him. His frown was twitching as he tried to smile reassuringly, and then he grunted. Oh my God, I suck at this. He turned away, crossed his arms again, and then said, I hate seeing you cry, okay? He didn't. He just didn't want you to kill him again. You stopped sobbing for a moment, looking at your ichor-stained hands, and for a moment panic rose, only for you to finally calm down from where you were mentally. You just sat there, quietly. There we go. He hummed, before sitting down next to you. Tell me what happened. You didn't like the memories that began bubbling up, but you opened your mouth and began telling Schrimpo what you remembered through the haze of suffocation. Your hands dug lightly into your arms as you steadied yourself. Blood, you said, with a flat tone, voice thin but steady. Twisted blood. It moved like sludge dripping in every direction. I thought if I kept to the wall, I didn't make a sound, it would notice me, but it did. You shivered once, then forced yourself to keep talking. It lashed out. I didn't even see it until it was around my throat. It was cold. So cold and slimy and heavy. It didn't just grab me. It pulled me in. That's when it started tightening. You swallowed, the sound sharp in the small elevator. It didn't do it quick. Not like a predator trying to finish its meal. It was deliberate. Every second it wanted me to feel how useless fighting against it was. I clawed at it, kicked. Screaming was pointless. Nothing worked. I couldn't even scratch it. It just kept squeezing. Your voice broke as you pressed a hand to your neck. Gone. The air, it was gone. Every time I tried to breathe, it felt like I was inhaling nothing, just emptiness. My chest was on fire. Every gasp scratched like broken glass, and still I didn't die. My body just wouldn't let me black out. It made me sit there wide awake while my lungs screamed at me to stop trying. Your hands curled tight, scraping faintly at the floor. Everything got so heavy. My body stopped listening. I could hear my own heartbeat, pounding louder and louder, until even that started to fade. The whole time, the only thought I had was not like this, but it didn't care. It wanted me to know that I can't escape. You paused, your breath catching before you forced the words out. Everything went black. Just black. Not even peace, just gone. And now I'm here again. The silence that followed was heavy. You finally looked up at him, your voice cracking on the last words. I don't want to feel that again. Please. Shrimpo hadn't moved the whole time you spoke. No scars. No sarcasm. No muttering. Not even complaining. Only the scowl that he usually wore. Softened just slightly. He gave you a nod. He leaned back against the wall, arms crossed, his body twitching faintly as he finally exhaled through his teeth. Well, his voice was flat as he continued muttering. That sucked. You blinked at him, your fingers still trembling on your knees. What? He tilted his head, not looking at you at first. His eyes traced the flickering elevator light instead. Yeah, it was miserable. You got squeezed out like a stress toy. You hated every second. Guess what? You're now here. Alive. Breathing. Talking. My ears off. So, what's the big issue? Your jaw dropped, outrage burned through your chest, boiling hot and sharp. What's the problem? Are you serious? I died. I was strangled to death. You think I'm supposed to just shrug that off? You shot to your feet, fins on your head twitching in anger. I poured my guts out to you. Told you exactly how it felt, and that's all you can say? Shrimpo finally looked at you and then, unimpressed, he said, "Yeah, that's all I could say." You growled words caught between your fury and disbelief, and for a split second you felt like... He smiled. "I should..." Before you could finish, his arms pulled you in, his mouth pressing against yours in a sharp, messy kiss. You froze, hands flexing like you should push him away, but you didn't. It wasn't graceful. His angle was quite off. His lips were rough, and your teeth clicked once before you adjusted. His breath was warm and even. It filled the narrow space between you. You weren't sure if you liked it, but you definitely didn't hate it. It was strange, clumsy, but it cut through the fog in your head. After the suffocating haze and static death, this imperfect closeness anchored you in something solid. Real even. When he finally pulled back, his forehead brushed yours for a second longer than intended. Both of you, breathless, staring at each other. Schrimpo grumbled. "There. Come enough now. Are you ready to listen to me?" You were in stunned silence, head buzzing across your scales, but you didn't pull away. You just stared at him, chest rising, falling too fast. "Good," he muttered, letting go, leaning back against the elevator wall again, crossing his arms, one leg pulled up, like it was in some anime. "Listen, you don't gotta like what happened. I don't like what happened to me either. Pebble chewing me apart wasn't a picnic. But if you sit there crying about every time, you're never gonna make it to the next floor. You just sit down and quit. And that's how you really lose. That's how you turn twisted." You opened your mouth to argue, but he cut you off with a sharp wave of his hand. "No, don't start. You're breathing. You're moving. That means you beat it. You won. Not the war, but the battle, I suppose." The words hit harder than you expected. His tone was still biting, still mean, but underneath it was something else. Something raw and protective, perhaps. But why? He shifted his weight, claws tapping against his shell. "You ain't weak. You ain't broke. You're just... unlucky. And unlucky is not the same as being useless. Stop looking at me like you're already twisted, alright? 'Cause you're not. Not yet. Not today. Maybe tomorrow, if you don't get another pep talk after you die." You swallowed hard, your fins drooping as you sank back to the floor across from him. You really have the worst way of cheering someone up. Shrimpo smirked faintly, eyes half lidded. "Yeah. But guess who isn't crying anymore? You." You realized that he was right. Your hands stopped trembling. Your chest didn't ache as much. The panic that had been suffocating you since you woke in the elevator was gone. Replaced by something steady, even if it was born out of irritation. "I still hate you," you mumbled, crossing your own arms now. "Good," he barked, leaning back his head against the wall. "That's all I care about. The elevator groaned then, gears grinding as the motion slowed. The lights above flickered, and the familiar hum of the lobby pressed at the edges of your hearing. Schrimpo pushed himself off the wall, brushing ichor dust off his claws. Show's over. Back to the grind. You yourself rose slowly, brushing your fingers against your arms once more. Your eyes catching his for just a moment longer than you meant to. Are you coming or not? He glanced back at you, face twitching impatiently, as the doors opened with a loud ding. Hey, you reached the end of the video. That makes you part of an exclusive club. Our secret password is Cheap Thrills. Put the secret message in your comment below to tell fellow members you watched the video until the very end. Lastly, before I say goodbye, I would normally shout out my channel members. However, due to losing monetization, I currently do not have access to both channel memberships as well as a list of previous channel members. Nevertheless, I'm eternally grateful to the channel members I used to have, and in the case memberships get reinstated, I hope I'll see you again. Thank you for watching.